Have you ever wondered how one family managed to take complete control of WWE? How a single storyline transformed from a simple championship reign into one of the greatest wrestling sagas ever told? For more than 4 years, the Bloodline wasn't just a faction, it became the heartbeat of WWE. Every championship, every betrayal, every shocking return, and every emotional confrontation seemed to revolve around one man and one family. Millions of fans around the world tuned in every week, not knowing who would turn next, who would fall in line, or who would dare challenge the tribal chief. But what many people don't know is that behind the championships, the dominance, and the record-breaking success lies a story filled with pressure, sacrifice, family legacy, and one of the greatest character transformations professional wrestling has ever seen. This isn't just the story of Roman Reigns becoming champion. This is the untold story of how the Bloodline changed WWE forever. Welcome back to Ring Insights, the channel where we uncover the greatest stories, hidden moments, and unforgettable journeys from the world of professional wrestling. If you're passionate about WWE history, legendary rivalries, backstage stories, and in-depth wrestling documentaries, make sure you subscribe and join us for more incredible content. Now let's go back to where this historic story truly began. Long before Roman Reigns ever called himself the tribal chief, before fans acknowledged him, and before the Bloodline became the biggest attraction in wrestling, there was an enormous legacy resting on his shoulders. Roman Reigns was born Leati Joseph Anoa'i into one of the most respected wrestling families in history. The Anoa'i family had already produced generations of legendary performers who helped shape professional wrestling across multiple decades. Names like Yokozuna, Rikishi, Umaga, the Wild Samoans, and many others had already established the family as wrestling royalty. Later cousins like the Usos would continue that tradition, while another cousin, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, became one of the biggest stars the industry had ever seen. Growing up surrounded by such a legendary family wasn't simply inspiring, it was overwhelming. Expectations followed Roman everywhere. Fans assumed greatness would come naturally because of his bloodline, but reality was much harder. Roman wasn't initially focused on wrestling at all. His first dream was becoming a professional football player. He played college football at Georgia Tech and showed tremendous athletic ability, eventually earning opportunities in professional football. Like countless athletes, however, injuries and setbacks prevented that dream from fully becoming reality. For many people, that would have been the end of the story. But for Roman, it became the beginning of something much bigger. In 2010, he signed with WWE's developmental system and began training in what was then Florida Championship Wrestling. Unlike many fans assume today, Roman wasn't immediately viewed as the future face of WWE. He had the size, athleticism, and look, but developing charisma, timing, and confidence inside the ring required years of relentless work. Everything changed in late 2012. During the Survivor Series pay-per-view, the WWE Universe witnessed the debut of 3 mysterious men dressed in black tactical gear. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose stormed through the crowd and attacked Ryback, helping CM Punk retain the WWE Championship. Nobody knew it at the time, but wrestling history had just changed forever. The trio called themselves The Shield. Unlike traditional wrestling factions that relied on flashy entrances or complicated gimmicks, The Shield presented themselves as dangerous revolutionaries. They claimed they were fighting against injustice in WWE, but their methods were brutal. They overwhelmed opponents through teamwork, intelligence, and absolute aggression. Roman quickly became the group's powerhouse. Every time he exploded across the ring with a devastating spear, audiences reacted. His incredible strength and natural presence stood out immediately. While Rollins showcased incredible athleticism and Ambrose displayed unpredictable intensity, Roman brought unstoppable power. Together they dominated WWE. They defeated top stars, headlined major events, and quickly became one of the company's most popular acts. Fans loved their unity because every member had a clear role. Their chemistry felt authentic rather than manufactured. But success rarely lasts forever in professional wrestling. In 2014, Seth Rollins shocked the wrestling world by betraying the Shield with a steel chair to Roman and Ambrose's backs. The image instantly became one of WWE's most unforgettable betrayals. The Shield was over. Almost immediately, WWE positioned Roman Reigns as its next top superstar. On paper, the decision made perfect sense. He had the appearance of a champion. He possessed tremendous athletic ability. He had mainstream appeal. He belonged to wrestling royalty. But something wasn't connecting. Fans respected Roman's talent, yet many rejected WWE's obvious attempts to force him into the role of the company's next hero. Every major victory seemed to increase fan resistance rather than excitement. When Roman won the 2015 Royal Rumble, many expected celebration. Instead, the arena filled with boos. It became one of the most uncomfortable moments in modern WWE history. The company desperately wanted Roman to become the next John Cena, but audiences simply weren't ready to accept him in that role. Night after night, Roman walked into arenas receiving mixed reactions. Some fans cheered, many loudly booed. Others simply refused to support him. Despite capturing multiple world championships over the following years, the criticism never disappeared. Every promo was analysed. Every match was questioned. Every victory sparked debate across social media. Few people understood the enormous pressure Roman faced behind the scenes. Imagine carrying not only your own career, but also the expectations of an entire company desperately searching for its next global superstar. Then life delivered a challenge far greater than wrestling criticism. In October 2018, Roman walked into Monday Night Raw with the Universal Championship around his waist. Fans expected another wrestling segment. Instead, they witnessed one of the most emotional moments in WWE history. Roman revealed that the leukemia he had battled years earlier had returned. His voice cracked as he explained that he wasn't simply relinquishing the championship. He was stepping away from wrestling to fight for his life. For the first time in years, every cheer and every boo disappeared. The WWE universe wasn't looking at a character anymore. They were looking at a husband, a father, a son, a man facing one of the toughest battles imaginable. Thousands inside the arena stood and applauded. Millions watching around the world sent messages of love and support. Suddenly, none of the previous criticism mattered. Professional wrestling had become real. Roman left WWE without knowing if or when he would ever return. Months passed. Fans continued hoping for good news. Then, in February 2019, something incredible happened. Roman Reigns returned. Standing once again in front of the WWE universe, he announced that his leukemia was back in remission. The crowd erupted with genuine emotion. It wasn't forced. It wasn't scripted. It was one of the loudest and most heartfelt ovations Roman had ever received. His comeback symbolized resilience, determination, and hope. Many believed this would finally be the moment Roman became universally loved. For a while it seemed possible. But wrestling is unpredictable. As the months passed, old reactions slowly returned. Some fans still respected him immensely, while others continued rejecting WWE's presentation of him as the unstoppable heroic figure. Then another unexpected obstacle changed everything. In early 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic completely transformed professional wrestling. WWE was forced to hold shows without fans inside the arena. Empty seats replaced roaring crowds, creating one of the strangest periods in wrestling history. Roman made the difficult decision to step away once again, this time to protect his health because of his compromised immune system following leukemia treatment. Some questioned the decision. Others completely understood it. Family came first. Health came first. No championship was more important than life. Nobody realized that while Roman was away, WWE Creative was quietly preparing the greatest transformation of his entire career. The company had spent years trying to make Roman the perfect hero. But what if he was never supposed to be the hero at all? What if the audience had been waiting all along for Roman Reigns to embrace something much darker? That question would soon change not only Roman's career, but the future of WWE itself. End of Part 1. Part 2. Roman Reigns returned at SummerSlam 2020, and from the moment his music hit, something felt different. There was no triumphant smile, no heroic celebration, no desire to soak in the cheers. Instead, Roman walked to the ring with a cold expression that instantly told fans this wasn't the same man who had left months earlier. He attacked both the Fiend Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman without saying a single word. It was shocking, but the biggest surprise was yet to come. Just days later, Roman appeared alongside Paul Heyman. For years, Paul Heyman had been inseparable from Brock Lesnar. Seeing him standing next to Roman Reigns was enough to make every WWE fan realise that a major shift had taken place. Questions flooded social media. Had Roman turned heel? Was Heyman manipulating him? Or had Roman finally decided to become the man fans had been asking for all along? The answer came 1 week later. Roman defeated Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman to become the new Universal Champion. But unlike every previous championship victory in his career, this one felt different. Roman wasn't celebrating with the fans. He wasn't thanking the WWE Universe. Instead, he acted as though the championship already belonged to him. That was the birth of the Tribal Chief. It wasn't just a nickname, it was an entirely new identity. Roman no longer wanted people to love him. He wanted them to acknowledge him. The difference was enormous. Instead of smiling through boos, Roman embraced arrogance. Instead of trying to inspire fans, he demanded respect. He believed he carried the entire Anoa'i family legacy on his shoulders, and if anyone questioned his authority, they would face the consequences. Almost overnight, everything changed. Fans who had spent years criticising Roman suddenly couldn't stop talking about him. Every promo felt believable. Every facial expression carried emotion. Every match became part of a much larger story. This wasn't simply a heel turn, it was one of the greatest character reinventions in WWE history. Paul Heyman became the perfect advisor. Rather than speaking over Roman, Heyman elevated him. He referred to Roman as the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, and the most dominant champion in WWE. Every introduction made Roman seem larger than life. Then came one of the most emotional rivalries of Roman's career. His own cousin, Jey Uso. At first, many fans thought Jey was simply another challenger waiting to lose. But WWE had much bigger plans. Roman didn't just want to defeat Jey, he wanted Jey to acknowledge him as the Tribal Chief. Their match at Clash of Champions wasn't simply about the Universal Championship, it was about family. Roman repeatedly begged Jey to admit his superiority. Every punch carried emotional weight, because this wasn't two strangers fighting. These were cousins. Roman brutalized Jey while Jimmy Uso watched helplessly from ringside. The image shocked fans. Roman wasn't enjoying hurting his cousin. He believed he had no choice. According to Roman, leadership required sacrifice, respect required pain, family required loyalty. When Jey finally said the words, "I quit," the story reached another level. Roman had won the championship months earlier. Now he had won control of his family. Jey eventually joined the Bloodline, but it wasn't because he wanted to. It was because Roman had broken him emotionally. That detail made the story fascinating. The Bloodline wasn't formed through friendship. It was built through power. Week after week, Roman tightened his grip over WWE. Every challenger eventually fell. Kevin Owens refused to quit and pushed Roman to his limits, leading to brutal encounters filled with tables, ladders, steel cages, and unforgettable moments. Yet somehow Roman always found a way to leave with the championship. Daniel Bryan stepped forward, believing experience and heart could overcome Roman's dominance. Instead, Roman defeated him in a career-defining battle that forced Bryan to leave SmackDown. Cesaro finally received the world title opportunity fans had wanted for years, but even he couldn't solve the mystery of the Tribal Chief. Edge returned from retirement with dreams of one last championship reign. After overcoming years of injuries and unimaginable setbacks, he believed destiny had finally aligned in his favour. Yet Roman stood in his way. Then came WrestleMania 37. Roman defended the Universal Championship against both Edge and Daniel Bryan in the main event. It wasn't just another title defense, it was a statement. Roman stacked both legends on top of each other before pinning them simultaneously. The image instantly became iconic. It wasn't enough for Roman to win. He wanted the entire world to know there was no one above him. As months passed, the bloodline grew stronger. Jimmy Uso returned. At first, Jimmy resisted Roman's leadership. Unlike Jey, he refused to fall in line immediately. He questioned Roman's methods and believed his brother had changed. Roman responded with psychological warfare. He reminded Jimmy that family only survives when everyone respects the head of the table. Eventually, Jimmy accepted Roman's authority. For the first time, Roman stood beside both Usos. The bloodline had become complete. Together, they dominated SmackDown. Whenever Roman needed help, the Usos were there. Whenever the Usos needed protection, Roman provided it. Every member benefited from the family. At the same time, every member became trapped by it. The Usos captured the SmackDown Tag Team Championships and later unified the tag titles, becoming one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history. Their confidence skyrocketed because Roman constantly reminded them they represented the greatest wrestling family on earth. But with success came fear. Nobody wanted to disappoint the tribal chief. One mistake could lead to humiliation. One loss could mean punishment. Roman rarely shouted. He didn't have to. His silence often spoke louder than words. One disappointed look from Roman could make his cousins question themselves. That psychological control became one of the defining characteristics of the Bloodline storyline. It wasn't just physical dominance, it was emotional manipulation. Meanwhile, Roman's championship reign continued reaching historic milestones. 1 year, then 2, then beyond. Every challenger entered believing they would finally end Roman's reign. Every challenger left empty-handed. John Cena returned and promised to expose Roman as an overprotected champion. Their rivalry wasn't simply about the championship, it became a battle between WWE's past and its future. Roman defeated Cena cleanly, proving he no longer needed anyone's approval. Brock Lesnar returned next, but this rivalry felt completely different from their previous encounters. Roman wasn't intimidated anymore. Years earlier, Brock had been portrayed as the unstoppable beast while Roman chased him. Now the roles had reversed. Roman was the champion. Roman controlled WWE. Roman had Paul Heyman. And for the first time, Brock Lesnar looked like the outsider trying to reclaim what he had lost. Their battles became increasingly personal. Paul Heyman's loyalty was questioned repeatedly, adding another emotional layer to the story. Fans constantly wondered whether Heyman would betray Roman or Brock. Every episode created new suspense. Every promo deepened the mystery. Then WWE introduced another shocking twist. At Clash at the Castle, Drew McIntyre seemed destined to end Roman's legendary reign in front of more than 60,000 passionate fans. The crowd believed history was about to be made. Instead, a masked man interfered. Moments later, the world discovered his identity. Solo Sikoa. Roman's younger cousin had arrived. Without warning, the bloodline had gained another enforcer. Solo didn't speak much. He didn't need to. His devastating attack said everything. Roman now possessed the most dangerous family in WWE. The bloodline wasn't just growing, it was becoming untouchable. By the end of 2022, WWE revolved around one family. Roman Reigns held the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. The Usos ruled the tag team division. Solo Sikoa destroyed anyone who stood in their path. Paul Heyman orchestrated everything from the shadows. It felt impossible to imagine anyone ever stopping them. But just as the bloodline reached the height of its power, fate introduced someone no one expected. A man who wasn't born into the family. A man who had spent his career searching for acceptance. A man whose loyalty would eventually tear the bloodline apart from the inside. His name was Sami Zayn, and no one could have predicted that his arrival would become the beginning of the end. End of Part 2. Part 3. Sami Zayn's relationship with the bloodline began almost like a joke. He wasn't a member of the legendary Anoa'i family. He wasn't physically dominant like Roman Reigns or Solo Sikoa. He wasn't one half of one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history like the Usos. In fact, many people believed he had no business standing beside them at all. At first, Sami simply wanted protection. He understood that challenging the bloodline was career suicide, so instead of fighting them, he tried to earn their respect. Week after week, he helped Roman whenever he could, interrupted opponents on behalf of the faction, and constantly tried to prove his loyalty. Most members of the bloodline remained skeptical. Roman observed every move Sami made, never fully trusting him. Solo Sikoa barely acknowledged his existence. Jimmy Uso often laughed at Sami's awkward attempts to fit in. Only one person slowly began accepting him: Jey Uso. Ironically, the same man Roman had once emotionally broken became Sami's biggest supporter. Jey understood what it felt like to fight for acceptance inside the bloodline, and over time, a genuine friendship developed between the two. Fans loved every interaction. Sami's natural humour perfectly balanced Roman's intimidating presence. What began as comic relief gradually evolved into one of the most emotionally compelling relationships WWE had ever created. Then came the famous honorary use moment. When Roman finally embraced Sami and allowed him to become an honorary member of the bloodline, the arena exploded. It was funny, heartwarming, and completely unexpected. For a brief moment, the bloodline didn't feel like a dictatorship. It felt like a family. But beneath the laughter, Roman was always watching. The tribal chief demanded absolute loyalty. Not 99%, 100%. Every decision Sami made was carefully judged. Every hesitation planted another seed of doubt in Roman's mind. As months passed, the pressure became unbearable. Sami found himself caught between friendship and morality. He genuinely cared about the bloodline, especially Jey Uso, but he also knew Roman's leadership was built on fear. Every time Roman manipulated his cousins or publicly embarrassed them, Sami's conscience grew heavier. The breaking point arrived at the Royal Rumble in 2023. Roman had just defeated Kevin Owens in another brutal championship match. But winning wasn't enough. Roman ordered the bloodline to continue attacking Owens long after the bell had rung. Steel chairs crashed into Kevin's body. Punch after punch landed without mercy. The assault became uncomfortable to watch. Roman then handed Sami Zayn a steel chair. It was the ultimate test. Roman demanded that Sami prove where his loyalty truly belonged. The entire arena fell silent. Millions watching around the world knew that whatever happened next would change WWE forever. Sami looked at Kevin Owens, then he looked at Roman. For months he had sacrificed his own identity to earn acceptance from the bloodline. Now he had to choose. In one unforgettable moment, Sami swung the steel chair. Not at Kevin Owens, at Roman Reigns. The crack of the chair echoed throughout the arena. Fans erupted into one of the loudest reactions in modern wrestling history. Roman slowly turned around with disbelief written across his face. His expression wasn't just anger, it was heartbreak. Someone he had welcomed into his family had betrayed him. Within seconds, the bloodline surrounded Sami. Jimmy and Solo attacked him without hesitation. Roman stood back and watched as Sami paid the price for defying the tribal chief. Only one man refused to participate: Jey Uso. Unable to watch his friend being destroyed, Jey quietly walked away from the ring. That single decision spoke louder than any words ever could. The bloodline had finally begun to crack. From that moment forward, Roman's control started slipping. Sami challenged Roman for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship in Montreal, Sami's hometown. The atmosphere inside the arena was unlike anything WWE had seen in years. Every fan believed they were witnessing destiny unfold. Sami fought with everything he had. He came within inches of ending Roman's historic reign. But once again, the bloodline interfered. Roman escaped with the championship. Although Sami lost the match, he won something even greater. He won the complete support of the WWE Universe. Meanwhile, tension inside the bloodline continued growing. Jey questioned Roman's leadership more often. Jimmy found himself caught between his brother and his tribal chief. Solo remained loyal, but even his silence couldn't hide the growing instability. At WrestleMania 39, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens defeated the Usos to become the new, undisputed tag team champions. For the first time in years, the bloodline had lost one of its greatest sources of power. Roman wasn't pleased. He blamed the Usos. He questioned their loyalty. He reminded them that failure embarrassed the family. The emotional abuse that Jey had endured since 2020 returned stronger than ever. Every conversation became more hostile. Every mistake became another excuse for Roman to tighten his grip. Then came Night of Champions. During Roman and Solo Sikoa's challenge for the tag team championships, Jimmy Uso had finally seen enough. As Roman prepared to attack once again, Jimmy shocked the wrestling world by super kicking the tribal chief. The crowd exploded. Roman couldn't believe what had happened. Before he could recover, Jimmy delivered another super kick. Years of fear had finally come to an end. Jimmy declared that he was done living under Roman's control. It was one of the most satisfying betrayals WWE had ever produced because it wasn't motivated by greed. It was motivated by freedom. Soon afterward, Jey reunited with Jimmy. The Usos stood together once again, not under Roman, against him. The family was officially at war. Roman tried every possible tactic to regain control. He manipulated. He threatened. He reminded everyone of everything he had done for the family. But his words no longer carried the same power. The bloodline had become too divided. At Money in the Bank 2023, Jey Uso achieved something no one else had done in years. He pinned Roman Reigns. It wasn't for the championship, but the psychological impact was enormous. The supposedly unbeatable tribal chief had finally been defeated. Roman's aura of invincibility had begun to fade. As the months continued, Roman appeared less frequently. His absence created uncertainty within the bloodline. Without the tribal chief constantly present, different members started making their own decisions. Solo Sikoa grew more confident. Paul Heyman looked increasingly worried. Jimmy and Jey focused on rebuilding their bond while distancing themselves from Roman's influence. Roman still carried the championship, but the empire he had spent years building was slowly collapsing from within. Then came WrestleMania 40. By this point, Roman had held the championship for well over 1,300 days. He had defeated legends, future Hall of Famers, rising stars, and nearly every credible challenger WWE could offer. His reign had already become one of the longest and most dominant in company history. Standing across the ring was Cody Rhodes. Cody's story represented everything Roman's story did not. While Roman demanded acknowledgement through fear and family power, Cody fought for redemption, legacy, and a promise he had made to his father. Their collision wasn't simply champion versus challenger, it was two completely different philosophies. The match became one of the biggest main events in WrestleMania history. Members of the bloodline attempted to interfere. Old rivals returned. Unexpected allies appeared. The battle felt like the climax of a movie that had been building for years. When the dust finally settled, Cody Rhodes pinned Roman Reigns in the center of the ring. The impossible had happened. Roman's historic championship reign was over. The era of the tribal chief had finally come to an end. But championships alone are not what made this story legendary. What made the bloodline unforgettable was its emotional depth. It wasn't just about who won matches, it was about family, loyalty, manipulation, identity, love, jealousy, respect, and the devastating consequences of absolute power. Roman Reigns transformed from one of WWE's most rejected babyfaces into one of the greatest villains professional wrestling has ever produced. He proved that sometimes the best characters aren't created by forcing fans to cheer. They're created by listening to what the audience truly wants and allowing performers to embrace who they were always meant to be. The bloodline elevated nearly everyone involved. Jey Uso evolved from a tag team specialist into a genuine main event superstar. Jimmy Uso developed his own identity outside the team. Sami Zayn experienced the most beloved storyline of his career. Solo Sikoa instantly became one of WWE's most dangerous young stars. Paul Heyman once again demonstrated why he is one of the greatest managers in wrestling history. And Roman Reigns reached a level of storytelling that many fans believe rivals the greatest champions of any generation. More importantly, the bloodline changed the way WWE approached long-term storytelling. Instead of rushing rivalries from one premium live event to the next, WWE allowed characters to grow naturally over months and even years. Every betrayal mattered because it had been carefully built. Every emotional moment felt earned. Every championship defense became another chapter in an ongoing saga rather than an isolated match. Years from now, fans won't simply remember Roman Reigns as a dominant champion. They'll remember the emotions. They'll remember Sami's chair shot. They'll remember Jey refusing to fall in line. They'll remember Jimmy's rebellion. They'll remember Cody finishing the story. And they'll remember how one family carried an entire company through one of the most successful storytelling eras in modern wrestling history. Whether you loved Roman Reigns or hated him, one fact is impossible to deny. The Bloodline didn't just dominate WWE, they redefined it. Their story proved that professional wrestling is at its very best when championships become secondary to unforgettable characters and deeply personal storytelling. Thank you for watching Ring Insights. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more in-depth WWE stories, legendary rivalries, hidden backstage moments, and complete wrestling histories, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Let us know in the comments which WWE storyline you think deserves the next deep dive. Until next time, this has been Ring Insights, and we'll see you in the next video.